What if you are not who you think you are? What if every decision you make, every word you speak, every emotion you feel isn't really yours? Do you know what you are doing, truly? When you get angry, did you choose that? When you gossip or procrastinate or judge, was it your will or a reflex? When you say I, who exactly is speaking? Nicoll's starting point is brutally honest. Man cannot do, man is asleep. What he calls I is a collection of automatic reactions. Shocking? Yes, but test it. Observe how often you contradict yourself. You decide to wake up early, and you don't. You resolve to be calm, and you explode. You want one thing now and another 5 minutes later. You are not one person, but many. Different moods, opinions, roles, all fighting for control. Today you are the hero, tomorrow the victim, the next day the critic. This is what Gurdjieff called the sleep of man, and Nicoll dedicated his life to explaining it in modern terms. You live in a state of waking sleep, acting without awareness, speaking without inner presence. You walk through life as if awake, but inwardly you are dreaming. Act 2, the conflict, the machinery of the self. Now we come to the central conflict, not between people but within a person. Nicoll draws the line between two parts of the self. Essence, your original unspoiled being, the real you. Personality, what you've acquired, beliefs, fears, opinions, habits. Most people live almost entirely in personality. It is a mask, and tragically, we believe it's our real face. Personality can be clever, brilliant, cultured, and completely false. And worse, it's unstable. Personality is reactive, easily wounded, constantly shifting. Essence is still, present, wordless. But we have forgotten it. Nicoll warns, the modern world strengthens personality, but does nothing for essence. The education system, society, even families, unknowingly feed the false self. This is not accidental. It is the result of mechanical laws at work. According to the law of 7, all processes decay without conscious effort. Your resolution to change, your desire to awaken, unless shocked into higher awareness, it will decline, always. Worse still, the law of 3 states that for anything to manifest, a third force must be present. In you, it's missing. You know what's right, you feel what's wrong, but you lack the third force to act, so nothing changes. This is why conflict defines your inner life. You want to be awake, but you are pulled into sleep. You seek higher understanding, but you are caught in emotion, fear, worry, pride. You try to work on yourself, but 100 eyes take turns sabotaging the effort. Nicoll says, this conflict is not a sign of failure, it is the beginning of awakening. Once you see that you are not in control, you can begin to reclaim your life. But first, something even more shocking. You love your suffering. You cling to negative emotions because they give you identity. Anger, anxiety, resentment, they make you feel alive. The idea of giving them up feels like death. So Nicoll challenges you. Do you truly want to wake up or just to feel better? You cannot have both. To awaken is to die to the false self, to lose your imaginary suffering and become something real. This work is not for improving your sleep, it is for waking you up. You were born asleep, but you do not have to die asleep. 1. The awakening begins, seeing the condition. Once the truth of man's inner fragmentation is recognized, once the false self has been caught in the act, in its contradictions, its lies, its pride, its negativity, something changes. A quiet trembling begins. It's not dramatic, it's subtle, like the first flutter of dawn against the night sky. Nicoll tells us, you cannot awaken all at once. You begin by seeing that you are asleep. That is already a miracle. This is the first act of real I, noticing the lie and choosing not to follow it blindly. It is an odd kind of awakening. You are not leaping out of bed into blazing light. You are waking slowly, still surrounded by dream objects and old emotions. You catch yourself in the middle of a sentence. You pause during a reaction. You begin to see your inner movements, and in seeing them, you are no longer fully inside them. Observation begins the possibility of inner change. Without it, you are a machine. And so the inner work begins, not in dramatic gestures, but in quiet moments of awareness, catching the voice that justifies anger, watching the mind as it imagines future revenge, listening to your inner whining about being misunderstood, noticing how you always defend your story, your side, your rightness. To see this, without judgment, without flattery, without identification, is to begin the work. 2. Self-observation. The inner laboratory. Nicoll calls self-observation the beginning of real knowledge. It is the work's microscope, its telescope, its mirror. What are we observing? The mind that talks incessantly, the emotions that swing like a pendulum, the instincts that cry for comfort, food, power, sex, the movements, automatic gestures, facial expressions, tone of voice. When we observe, we begin to separate from what we see. This is the first crack in the false identity. But Nicoll gives a stern warning. You cannot observe what you justify. You cannot observe what you excuse. You cannot observe what you identify with. To observe is not to fix, to fight, or to change. It is simply to see. To see is already transformation in seed form. And just like a seed must be protected and watered quietly, without tearing it open to see if it's growing, your work must be done without impatience. Observation is not memory. You must see again and again. Each day brings new manifestations. You are not a single person. You are hundreds of moods, habits, programs. And still the work says, observe. Every time you see something in yourself without justifying it, without hating it, a little light comes in. 3. Self-remembering, the forgotten center. If self-observation is the microscope, self-remembering is the light that powers it. But what is it? It is not remembering your name, not your story, not your birthday or plans or beliefs. It is remembering that you are here, that you are watching, that you are not the voice in your head, not the emotion in your chest, not the drama unfolding. Self-remembering is a shock, a conscious interruption in the flow of sleep. You are walking, and suddenly you remember, I am walking. You are angry, and you remember, I am watching this anger. You are listening to someone talk, and suddenly you are aware of yourself listening. You are present, not lost in thought, not preparing your next sentence, not comparing or analyzing, just here. Nicoll describes self-remembering as a third force. It is the reconciling energy between observation and action. It is the birth of essence consciousness, and without it, nothing real can begin. 4. The non-expression of negative emotions. Now comes one of the most revolutionary and difficult practices in the work. Do not express negative emotions. Not suppress, not deny. Do not express. This is radical. Most people believe that expressing negativity is healthy, authentic, even necessary. But Nicoll flips the entire cultural narrative. Negative emotions are always lies. They are false, distorted reactions. They serve no real purpose except to feed the false personality. You must see this. Most of your negativity is habitual. It is not felt, it is enacted. Anger becomes a reflex. Anxiety becomes a mood. Depression becomes a posture. Each time you express negativity, you strengthen the mechanicalness in you. But each time you hold back, not by force, but by observation and remembering, something astonishing happens. You create inner separation. You realize, I am not this feeling. And in the space of non-expression, a new force arises. This is not repression. Repression stores the emotion. Non-expression burns it off through attention. When you observe negativity without expressing it, you rob it of energy. And what's left? Space, stillness, presence. 5. Identification, the great inner thief. Identification is the invisible force behind sleep. What is it? It is the act of becoming one with something that is not you. You are not your job, but you identify with it. You are not your appearance, but you identify with it. You are not your politics, your trauma, your childhood, your success, but you identify with all of it. And in identification, you forget yourself. You lose your center. Identification is the glue that keeps you stuck in personality. Nicoll writes, whatever you identify with controls you. If you identify with your sadness, it becomes your master. If you identify with your thoughts, they become your prison. If you identify with praise or criticism, you become a puppet. The work teaches separate. Step back, watch. You are the observer, not the thing observed. When you remember this, identification loosens its grip. You can feel emotions, have thoughts, face life without being swallowed by it. This is liberation, and it is not mystical. It is deeply practical. 6. The ray of creation and the map of liberation. Now we zoom out. Nicoll gives us a picture of the universe, not as a static cosmos, but as a ray of creation, descending from the absolute to the moon. Each level is governed by more laws. The absolute 1 law, all worlds 3 laws, all suns 6 laws, our sun 12 laws, Earth 48 laws, Moon 96 laws. The further you go down the ray, the less freedom you have. You are born on Earth under 48 laws. Heavy, complex, full of suffering and contradiction. But most people live as if they were under 96 laws, Moon laws. Even less freedom, more sleep, more slavery to inner impulses and external influences. Man is food for the moon, unless he awakens. This is not poetic, it is exact. The moon grows by feeding on mechanical suffering. And unless you develop essence, unless you awaken, you remain part of that cycle. But you are not condemned. The work is the ladder that climbs back up the ray. Every act of self-remembering lifts you. Every refusal to identify frees you. Every moment of conscious presence is a spark that lights the path upward. You can begin to live under fewer laws by becoming more conscious. This is your cosmic position. You are at a crossroads, and your inner work determines your direction. 7. The birth of real I. So what is the point of all this? It is not to become more efficient, more spiritual, more calm. It is to become real, to develop a permanent I, a unified center of being that is not blown about by inner storms. Nicoll describes real I as a seed buried deep in essence. It does not exist yet, but it can exist. All inner work, self-observation, non-identification, self-remembering, inner struggle, is food for the seed. The real I cannot appear while the false I reigns. This is why the work is difficult. You are being asked to die to what you think you are in order to become what you truly are. The false I lives through pride, imagination, complaint, comparison. It thrives in chaos. It resists observation. But when you see it, without hatred, without justification, it begins to weaken, and slowly a quiet center forms. Not dramatic, not emotional, just a steady awareness. I am watching. I am not my thoughts. I am not my reactions. I am. And in this state, something new becomes possible. Real will. 8. The role of conscious suffering and voluntary effort. Nicoll speaks often of conscious suffering. What is it? It is not misery, not masochism, not self-denial for its own sake. It is the inner friction created when essence resists personality, when you want to blame and you hold back, when you feel self-pity and you observe it instead of feeding it, when you notice your pride and you neither collapse nor inflate, but simply see. This creates heat, a purifying fire. It is this fire that transforms the lead of mechanicalness into the gold of being. Similarly, voluntary suffering is the willingness to go against your mechanical nature, not for reward, but because something higher in you demands it. It is sacrifice, not of money or fame, but of lies, of comfort, of sleep. You must suffer the loss of what is false to gain what is real. And this suffering, born consciously, becomes joy. Not the joy of pleasure, but the joy of liberation. 9. Inner octaves and the law of 7. One of the most practical and humbling teachings is the law of 7. It states, no process continues in a straight line. Everything deviates, everything declines unless a shock is introduced. You begin to observe and forget. You remember yourself and fall asleep. You read the commentaries and return to distraction. This is not failure, it is law. The work shows you how to introduce shocks, returning to self-remembering, making small, conscious efforts, working with others on the same path, reading sacred ideas and digesting them deeply. Every small shock keeps the octave alive. Without them, your inner work fades. With them, your essence grows. This is why discipline matters, not as punishment, but as protection for the seed of awakening. 10. The role of others and the invisible school. Nicoll emphasized, you cannot do this alone. The work is personal, but not isolated. You need others, not for comfort, but for friction, for support, for mirroring. In work groups or even in solitary study with sincerity, something mysterious happens. You begin to feel part of an invisible school. The real work exists outside of time. Those who have walked this path before, Gurdjieff, Ouspensky, Nicoll, and others, are part of a living stream of consciousness. And when you join the work sincerely, you tap into this stream. You are not alone. You are part of a lineage of awakening. 11. What is remembered lives? The final stage of the resolution is perhaps the most intimate. Real I is not a possession, it is a remembering. You do not have it, you do not get it, you return to it, you remember it, and in remembering it lives. Nicoll writes, "The work does not promise heaven, it promises reality, and reality when seen clearly is more beautiful than any dream. You were born asleep. You were given a body, a name, a culture, but not a self. The self must be built. This is the work, this is the resolution, this is the way out." Final deduction. The path is now. You are not a fixed being. You are not doomed. You are not hopeless. You are asleep, but awakening is possible. And awakening begins now, not later, not when you're ready, not when life settles down. Now, in this moment, in this breath. Who is watching?